Hello everyone and welcome to the student assessment walkthrough for the unit of competence TAEDEL301A, Provide Work Skill Instruction. This is the first of your 3 TAE units that are part of the Cert 4 car driving instructor qualification and also the Cert 4 heavy vehicle instructor qualification. Tonight we're going to walk you through the assessment, explain some of the key factors for you, because even though it is written down, everything that's required in this assessment tool, sometimes it can be a little bit daunting once we get to the TAE part of the qualification to actually understand what's being asked of you, only because the 3 TAE units, qualifications or units, are units of competence that come from the TAE training package, which is more aligned to people that are becoming TAFE teachers or trainers for RTOs, like people that would come that work here at ITS with us and need a deeper sort of understanding of how the vocational education and training network works. So this unit of these 3 units of competence are being ported from the TAFE teachers course, so to speak, and parachuted into the driving instructor course. And even though it's great to know this material and it will raise your professionalism, some of the requirements of this unit have parts that really won't be needed by a normal driver trainer. But if you're slightly ambitious, if you're someone who wants to become the best instructor you can possibly be, and hopefully in the end maybe work for an organization like us, which is normally an improvement in pay scale and variety in work, then these TAE units will actually be vitally important to your future. So as I was saying, this one is the first of the 3 units within the TAE cluster for your driver trainer qualification, whether it be car or heavy vehicle. If I was to go and show you obviously the student portal, as you can see on the student portal, this topic will normally sit around topic 8 or topic 9, depending on the qualification you're doing. It'll exactly as it appears here. We have a recorded webinar in that it's a voiceover presentation of the classroom presentation. Although we have students participate in and watch all the webinars for a lot of the driver training related webinars or units of competence, it is funny that we do find that this particular voiceover presentation, which is really important because it does explain the complexity of the TAE units in a nice, easy to understand way for a driver trainer, again, whether you're heavy vehicle or car. It really does a great job of explaining that and bringing back that information into a really usable format for you as a driver trainer. Yet we find somehow that not many people look at it. It seems to be one of those ones that seems to be missed. So make sure you have a look at that voiceover presentation. It will help you definitely understand this presentation, which they are one of the 2 same things. So if you rather learn by listening and having people explain things as they go, then definitely watch the voiceover presentation. If you're someone who would rather not hear my voice and just read through the material at your own pace, then definitely go to this one, or likewise, do both. It can only help. Likewise, we have a learner guide for this unit of competence. Interesting enough, I would have to say that the learner guides for the TAE cluster will have much more relevant information that will help you understand the unit of competence. Even though a lot of it will be complex, as we know with some of the other learner guides attached to some of the other units in this qualification, they are of little use to us because they have come from the warehousing and logistics sector, and it's very hard to read the material and garner information that would be useful for you as a driver trainer. But certainly when it comes to the learner guides, they will help provide you with information that will help you really with the assessment and also understanding some of the key criteria of the unit of competence. So we do recommend that if you are going to look at any of the learner guides, that it's these ones in the TAE cluster that you'd be using. We've got some general topic resources, which includes a little bit about open and closed questions, the DIDIC method of training, which is certainly important. Understanding this is obviously directly linked to your success for your in-vehicle training as a driving instructor. And likewise, it's a key component actually of the criteria of this assessment for this unit of competence. So definitely have a read of that. And then there's some other great material that you can use. Underneath, there's all of our downloads accompanying the student assessment. So we have the student assessment itself, which I'll go back to in a second. And then also we have here the delivery plan template, which is very important. And again, I'll walk you through that. And the great thing about this is an empty template that you're going to fill. But again, we're providing you with plenty of working examples to help you understand what's required in this template. And I will, in this session today, not only walk you through an empty version of the template, but also I'll choose one of these filled out templates and just walk you through one of those to help you understand that with this student assessment, going into the template and understanding how this example can help you complete this template, which will allow you to complete the assessment. Okay, back to the assessment. Front cover sheet. It's, like I said, TAEDEL301A, provide work skill instruction. Because it is a TAE unit, it is going to have a little bit of work attached to it. The great thing is, and a credit to Alex and even the team here at ITS, when we work together through the TAE units, working out how we wanted to cluster these assessments to allow you to become the best trainer you could be, and certainly expose you to this higher level of sort of professionalism. We also wanted to achieve a workload that didn't go so far out of the realm of a driver trainer that it only confused you and would hinder your ability to leave us and move into the workforce because you just wouldn't get through the course, because we'd be asking you to complete work that goes beyond that of a driver trainer. So the great thing is this particular assessment asks quite a bit of you. However, the second assessment, which follows this one, is much smaller in what's required because we're able to take advantage of the hard yards, the hard work you do in this assessment, and use that as evidence to help you complete the second one without having to do so much work. So don't be despondent when you look at the workload for this one thinking, oh my, I'm going to have to do this 3 times. You won't. This first one's quite complex. The second one doesn't have a whole lot to do. And then the third one moves into another area. So there'll be a little bit to do in that one. However, a lot of the work that you do in this one will make the second assessment really easy. So there are several assessment tasks associated with this. As it says here, there's task 1, which is develop and facilitate 3 training sessions. There'll be a bit around you evaluating how you went as a trainer and writing that down and how you can improve. And there is a question and answer section. However, I'll go into that in more detail on the unit cover sheet or the assessment cover sheet. Just to remind you of what this is all about, this unit describes the performance outcomes, skills and knowledge required to conduct individual and group instruction and demonstrate work skills using existing learning resources in a safe and comfortable learning environment. The unit covers the skills and knowledge required to determine the success of both the training provided and one's own personal training performance. It emphasises the training as being driven by the work process and context. This unit supports a wide range of applications across any workplace setting, and so it can be used by any organisation. It is not just restricted to training organisations. So what does that all mean? What this really means is this. When we look at how we train you to become a really effective driver trainer, this unit is all about teaching you and allowing you to, more importantly, not teaching you, but more importantly, allowing you to learn how to formally write down how you're going to teach an individual or a group a certain thing. So, and I guess because we're driver trainers, we're looking at how you're going to conduct a training or a driving lesson, so to speak. So you'll see in a minute that we talk about these 3 training sessions. 2 of them can be on driver training, and we're going to get you to do that. And we're going to make you do that in vehicle. So we're going to look at 2 out of the 3 things will be you training either an individual or a small group in the vehicle. and it'll be all related to the job that you're going to do. And the third unit will be to do with training a small group in the classroom, so to speak, but we'll get to that a little bit later. But at the end of the day, this is the unit where you're going to learn how to put together a driving lesson and write it down in a nice, professional, formal way, that you're not just trying to teach someone off the top of your head. So obviously that's important, that when you go to teach someone anything, that you have some sort of structure in place. And what this assessment does, what this unit of competence does, and what this assessment will do is test your ability to make that happen. And that's what I'm going to walk you through tonight. So here we have the assessment cover sheet. It says here, within assessment task 1, all of a sudden you have quite a few boxes that need to be ticked off. Again, don't be too worried, because a lot of this stuff is, some of this stuff is carried out by us, your trainers, and some of it is also incidental. So it says here 3 training sessions observed. So that's, again, exactly like I said, you're going to have 2 training sessions that are about in-vehicle training. The other one we want you to do in the classroom, so to speak, with a group, and that can be on anything. So the 2 training sessions in the car will be about the acquisition of becoming a safe driver. So whether that's on head checks or reverse parking or 3-point turns or U-turns or whatever the case may be, or stopping at a stop sign, that's okay. 2 of them will be about driving, and the other one can be about anything you like, as long as it's not cooking. So you could teach, if you have a qualification or work experience in another area, in another profession, through another qualification or your work history, pick something you know a lot about, and we can turn that into a workplace training session that you'll do in a class, so to speak. The next part, if applicable, handouts and overheads attached. So anything that you create to help you teach, you're going to submit that as part of your evidence, as a part of what you've used to help teach people. We hope that as you go through your training in vehicle, that you're creating notes, and we have those to dict templates and adapt templates in the student portal, that you're filling those out with really useful information that would help you teach that. And of course, all that can be, if you happen to use that stuff, is stuff that you can hand in with this assessment, so we can prove and show how you carried out this training. There's 2 written evaluation reports attached from the student. That's a mock situation where we pretend to be your student and we'll give you feedback on how you went as a trainer. With that particular portion of this assessment, what we like to do is use your client feedback form that you created back in the customer service unit. Depending on what version of the qualification you are doing, you may not have had to create a customer feedback form. If you have, then you are going to use that. You'll hand that to your trainer after you've done your 2 training sessions. They will fill that out, and you'll use that as a part of your evaluation upon yourself, your report. You'll also email us, so you'll have the two evaluation reports attached from the student and the 2 evaluation forms. So they sort of go hand in hand. You'll have an email containing the training session details. So what you'll do is you'll email your trainer, not your in-vehicle trainer, but your theory support trainer that's been helping you through this course with your theory work. You're going to email them saying, this is what I plan to teach Peter or Cameron or Fred or whoever, and it helps document the series of what's going to occur through this assessment process. And then you'll have the assessor checklist attached, which is something, again, we take care of. That's the checklist that your trainer will use with you when they are in the vehicle with you or in a classroom watching you train. And then there's the written project attached. This does sound and can sound quite daunting, but to be honest with you, it actually isn't. If you just stick to the script and do and use a systematic approach to the whole assessment process, you'll actually get through it in a fairly reasonable amount of time, and you'll come out the other side so much better for it. The important thing to do is to keep to one step at a time, systematic approach, look at our examples, go through our learning material, and you actually can knock this stuff out pretty quickly. Obviously, we've got all our normal stuff where the assessor can add some feedback to you if you like. Don't forget to sign your learner declarations when you are filling out the assessment, or if you're doing it all electronic, to fill out the electronic declaration form. Although I think we always get you to sign those. So assessment task 1, student information. Part A. As part of your assessment for this unit, you will need to prepare for and deliver 3 45-minute training sessions involving demonstrating and instructing particular work skills for different groups. So that's it, guys. You're going to be delivering 3 training sessions, 45 minutes each. 2 can be in the car. 1 will be, like I said, in a classroom environment to a group, so to speak. The driving lessons can be on any topic you like. However, if it ends up falling into and being used as a part of your TLIM unit of competence, the develop safe car driving behaviours in others unit of competence, that driving instructor unit, where at the end of that topic, you will run through that practical assessment where you'll take your driving instructor out for a drive. They'll be driving. They're the learner. You're the driving instructor. You're going to be telling them to turn left and right and getting them to practice a whole heap of different driving techniques, and you'll be assessing them. You may have developed a test route. You may not have, but most times we like you to develop a test route, and you'll use that test route, and you'll be telling your driving instructor to turn left and right, and be watching their driving, and you're going to actually pick up on 3 different errors that they're performing, and 2 of those, all of those 3 errors, they're going to convert into a driving lesson where you're going to teach your trainer how to drive correctly, fixing those 3 errors, and 2 of those will be a part of this 3 45-minute training sessions that we use. So because you're out on the road in that assessment, putting together driving lessons as a part of that assessment process where you watch them drive, you don't know what the errors are going to be, you watch them drive, you pick up the errors, and then you quickly formulate a driving lesson. But because we've been practicing this with you before that date, you should have a whole library of information and practice teaching these things before. So maybe whether you've done this before your final assessment, you may end up completing this part as a part of that final assessment for develop safe car driving behaviours and others. So hopefully that makes sense to you. You're going to have 3 training sessions. 2 of them will be in car. You may do it as a part of your assessment for the final subject, or you may actually have done it beforehand. The assessor, your trainers will work with you. And if you're ahead of schedule and you're doing fantastic, then yeah, you'll probably knock this out practically before you actually do your final assessment. If you don't, well then while you're doing that final assessment, your trainer will be able to apply the evidence that the work that you do during that assessment to help you pass or demonstrate that you can be deemed competent for this unit of competence. So hopefully that makes sense. 3 practical sessions, 2 in the car, 1 in the classroom. It says here you'll be required to video record yourself during the session and submit the recordings as evidence. The training sessions will need to be delivered in your personal study time. 1 training session, your group delivery, will be conducted in class as indicated in the course timetable. The training session will be recorded by your assessor. Now, because you're most likely a blended delivery student, looking at this via the student portal, again, the in-class stuff we can do together. If you can't do the in-class with us, then of course you are able to film yourself teaching a group for 45 minutes. Like I said, anything you like. Definitely the in-vehicle stuff will be done with your trainer. You don't need to record that. We'll take care of that. However, this group one, if you can't do it with us in the classroom, then you can organise to do it and have it filmed. The important thing to do anytime you have anything, you're filming yourself doing this stuff, because this is a proper formal assessment process, just a hint to remind your participants that it's a very serious thing and they're not to muck around, that it's a very serious procedure for you, and you're going to be proving to us that you can, teach a group of people or a small group of people, and that they don't muck around and ruin your ability to prove to us that you're capable, because that's what we're going to mark you on. We need to be able to deem that whether you're competent, or for want of a better term, pass or fail, so to speak. So you need to make sure that if you're going to use participants, that they're switched on and understand that they need to be serious and listen to what you have to say and follow the procedures. So as it says here, the assessment environment, this assessment will be conducted in both a simulated environment and classroom environment. As you know, like I said, for most of us, for 99% of us, we'll do the car stuff in the car with your trainers, and the classroom with your theory support trainer. Before commencing this assessment, ensure you have received the following: a delivery plan template. Again, that's the templates that I was talking about here on the portal, and I'm going to walk you through those in a moment. But make sure you've got those. You'll have them now because they're sitting there in the portal for you. Procedure: each training session must address different learning objectives, as well as a range of techniques and effective communication skills appropriate to the audience. Your assessor will be able to assist you with selecting 3 learning objectives, 1 for each training session. The learning objectives should relate to your vocational competencies or field of employment. So obviously that makes sense that we're going to do 2 about driving in a car. The third one, like I said, it can be on anything you like. It just can't be on cooking. And it can't be on your love of, baseball and football or cricket or something. It's actually got to be, teaching people something to do with a requirement in the workplace. So we're pretending for the driving that the people obtaining their license or whatever the case may be as a part of their employment requirements. So it can be anything you want it to be on, but it needs to be connected to clearly learning something that would help someone in their work role. 2, these training sessions do not need to be related to a national competency standard. So what we're saying there is that all this stuff like this unit, TAEDEL301A or B, or whatever the case may be, it doesn't have to be around that stuff. It just needs to be connected to your workplace. And for you guys, obviously studying to become a driving instructor, it's important that these delivery sessions reflect that, because that's the job you're doing. And we want you to help prepare you for the workforce. So as it says, these training sessions do not need to be related to a national competency standard, but must have defined learning outcomes prior to delivery. These will need to be identified in your documentation. Again, don't panic with this. Once we get to the templates, it's going to explain it all to you and how to do it and where to put it very clearly. At least one training session, dot point 3, at least one training session must be delivered to multiple participants, group delivery, with one training session delivered to an individual. And this is the great thing with the in-vehicle training, and how you are at times with just the trainer by yourself, and at other times you're with the trainer with other people in the car. As we know, we like to run small groups, and at the same time too, when you do the classroom delivery, you would be in a group. So again, the trainer will work with you. They'll organise and help you to meet these requirements for the practical side of it, where you're delivering the subjects. They'll say, this is the session you're going to deliver to me by myself. I'm the individual. They'll probably get you to practice and sort of say to you, while you're teaching me this part in the car, as you practice the develop safe car driving behaviours and others subject, that at this stage they'll say, well, while you're explaining this, let's pretend that you're teaching every student in the car, and you can open up your delivery and who you're talking to and making eye contact with to the group to help you practice small group delivery. And that's important because even from a workplace point of view, there's some big government contracts coming up where instructors will be working with small groups of students, and being able to show that you understand how to do small group delivery in vehicle is going to be a massive advantage to you if you wish to work on that program. 4, the delivery of your group training, multiple participants, has been scheduled for delivery in session 3 of your course timetable. Again, I will suspect that you guys are blended delivery students. If you're full-time students, then yeah, absolutely. The trainer will be on top of this for you, and they'll be organising times and whatever the case may be. If you're a blended delivery student, then again, your support trainer, your individual support trainer will be be organising, liaising with you to set a date where you can come in and deliver this to a group. Obviously, say for instance, quite often, as we know, during the later half of the week, we schedule at least a day or two, where people can come in and do some theory-based work and training with their trainers. And it's normally during these times that they'll put a group together for you in the classroom, hand over all the equipment that is ours that you need to use, and allow you to teach that group that's in there for the same reasons you are that day. And likewise too, sometimes we'll timetable for all our blended delivery students, particular days where you can come in and get this part done. And all the blended delivery students from all over Victoria will come into our training facility, and you'll all run through your training as a group to each other. Preparing and organising your training sessions. So use the delivery plan template to prepare and organise each training session by identifying the facilitator trainer, identifying the required job or work skills to be taught. Remember to ensure that your own skills are adequate to deliver these training sessions. So don't go and create, what that's saying and reminding you is, don't go and create a training session on how to be a brain surgeon or how to, carry out heart surgery when obviously you don't have the skills, unless you're a doctor, and we have had some doctors on the courses, but unless you're a doctor or a trained medical practitioner trainer to be able to do that. So make sure anything you're going to teach, that it's within your skill set. Identify the learning outcomes of the training session. If applicable, identify the purpose of the unit of competence. Gathering information about your learners' characteristics and their learning needs. Confirming a safe learning environment and comfortable environment, and identify any OH&S and WH&S considerations. Identify the delivery methods to be used during the training sessions. Obtaining, developing, and check learning resources and learning materials, including handout materials for relevance. So you're making sure that if you're going to teach someone about lane changing and head checking, that you're not handing out materials that talks about reverse parking, because that ain't good for that. Identify any equipment or physical resources required for the demonstration. Identify any housekeeping requirements. Identify the sequence of topics, the work skills to be taught, and the timeframes in which they must be delivered. Identifying any suitable learning activities relevant to the topics or work skills and provides opportunities for practice. Identifying when facilitators should provide verbal feedback to students and audience members. Identifying when assessment or assessment activities should take place. And if applicable, identify the next stage or step to the training pathway. Example, if the real world students audience were to conduct practical training in the next training session that follows this one. So you might say that I want to teach a particular topic. You realize that you can't teach that in 45 minutes. So what we allow you to do is to say, hey, hi guys, welcome to my training session today. And you might understand that the bit you want to teach for this 45 minutes would be the first part of a 2-part session, or it could be part 2 of a 2-part session, or it could be theoretically part 4 of a 10-part session. And that's okay. We say that's fine. All we want to see is you deliver poignant training that's connected to the outcome that it should achieve in regards to someone in the workplace. So if, say, for instance, you wanted to teach something and you know that would be a 5-hour subject, you can say, hi guys, welcome to, part 3 of this 5-hour session. And that's fine. That's okay. You don't have to try to teach the whole topic in 45 minutes if you couldn't fit it. However, especially the ones for the driving, easily you can fit that in 45 minutes. So all these dot points, you'll be like, oh my God, how can you do this? This is crazy. I don't know these things. Relax, it's fine, because the wonderful thing is our templates that we have in place for you, the templates that can be found here in the student portal, walk you through that whole process. You don't have to panic. Here is an overview of an empty template. And by filling out these empty parts, you will cover all these important requirements for this very important step. I'll now move away from this assessment and walk you through the templates. I'll walk you through an empty template to start off with, and then we'll go and look at one of the filled out examples so you have a clear idea and also understand how much assistance on offer for you to help you formulate and get this correct. So the great thing is that when you first start to read this, it can feel like it's very overwhelming, but once you get your hands on the delivery plan templates, it becomes a whole lot easier. So just to prove that it's a template, here is an overview of the whole document. I'm now going to zoom into the individual page and walk you through it. Okay, so here's the delivery plan template. It's saying here deliver an assessment plan, which tends to make sure. From a formal training perspective, not that we use these particular ones, but these are a slightly older version of how we would formally write down how we teach people all the different things we teach them. But obviously here that we've got this here for you, so you have a nice structure in place on how you can write down your 3 training sessions. So just remind yourself, you'll be doing 3 of these templates, 2 on 2 different driving topics, a la reverse parking, 3-point turns, head checking, stopping at stop signs, steering, gear changing, takeoffs, handbrake starts, whatever you want it to be. But you'll choose 2. You'll do 2 on driving and 1 on another subject. This material here, if you've got a company logo or you want to make up a company logo, by all means, insert it, cover that box. Some of this generic information can remain, or you can actually change this to your business name, your mock business name. So this can become Cameron School of Burnouts in Bowen North, and make up a phone number. And if you haven't got a web address, just make up a web address. So you can fill this out accordingly, change this to the date to which you are working on. You can keep the copyright as us, that doesn't matter. And then here we have the parts that you need to fill out. Generally speaking, the stuff in red is the stuff that you need to put in. So again, I'm going to walk you through the empty template, and then I'll take you through a filled out one, which will definitely help bring relevance. So in actual fact, I might go between the 2 simultaneously. It might actually help to do it like that actually. So that's what we'll do. So for instance, the first part here, it says deliver an assessment schedule, group-based training. And it says here, insert the work topic, work skill topic here, or unit code. We're not going to be dealing with unit code, so you don't really have to worry about this. But here is the topic you're going to teach. So if it was about head checking or lane changing, or how to change the ink cartridges on a printer, that's what you're going to put here. If I go to our other example, and I'll scroll down a little bit here for us, you'll see that this one says, yeah, it's on lane changing, head checking, including the blind spot. If we go back to the empty template, it says here duration, if applicable, insert nominal hours here. For us, of course, we said we want you to do 3 45-minute lessons. So it's going to say 45 minutes. Again, on the unit descriptor, it's going to say, if applicable, insert the unit descriptor. The unit descriptor is explaining what this is all about. So again, if we were to go back to the example, it says here to be able to teach a learner or licensed driver how to change lanes safely using a head check. The next section, which talks about the industry of the job or work skill. You can leave this information in here, guys, for an actual fact. But industry of the job work skill, the description of the job work skill, the attendance policy, the personal study commitment, and the target learners and any LLN requirements. I'm going to go through that through the example, but as you can imagine, what we're talking about here is that where does this training session that you're about to do, where does it come from? What part of the workforce or workplace does this belong to? Ours is driving, so for the first two, so we'll put that. So say, for instance, if you are going to do a training session on how to clean a pool, then the industry or the job or the work skill may be the pool maintenance industry, or whatever the case may be. So remember, you're going to do two on driving. They're going to come from the same industry, and I'll talk about that in a moment when we look at the other filled out template for your other subject that you teach, wherever that industry comes from. So again, if you're going to teach people how to mop floors effectively, then it would be from the cleaning industry. The description of the job or work skill is the thing that you're teaching. So that could be, if you're teaching people how to mop a floor, it'll be description of the job or work skill. It'll be something like to effectively mop floors to a agreed cleanliness, ensuring that the floor is not wet and slippery, and whatever the case may be. Just going to sort of explain the job, the attendance policy, and all this stuff. Like I said, I'll run through on the filled out template to give it a bit of relevance. So as we get here, it says unit descriptor. So for us, we said it was to be able to teach a learner or licensed driver how to change lanes safely using a head check. The industry or the job or the work skill is transport and logistics. So this will not change this answer for your two sessions on driving. It will come from transport and logistics. Description of the job or work skill: to change lanes safely using mirrors and signals and head check, making sure there are no vehicles in the blind spot. Now, as good as these examples are, so to speak, they're deliberately not perfect. We've allowed this to be something that you can use and understand what's required of you, but by no means are these perfect answers. So if I was writing this, I would be putting everything in that I think it takes to change lanes safely. So I'd have stuff in here about how, not just looking at checking, but making a safe judgment on how to, when it's safe to change lanes, and a whole lot more involved. So I would really look at everything it takes to change lanes safely. This is not a bad little effort of explaining it, but there certainly could be more detail. The attendance policy will be the same for all of yours. It's 100% attendance. Everyone, the person must be there. Personal study commitment. This is something that you have to work out. What we're saying here is that beyond this 45-minute driving lesson, we think a learner would have to practice changing lanes for 8 hours to become really fantastic at it. Whether you're doing something on reverse parking or stopping at a stop sign, this personal study commitment, the time they're meant to practice it on their own, is something that you can think about and put your own answer in. Target learners. So this is about, well, who are you teaching? So obviously for this, we're saying it's the general public, including L-platers with different experience, as well as licensed drivers from overseas, as well as locally. So again, who would you be teaching as a driving instructor? Put that in your own words. We certainly don't want to be seeing our own answers. This is an example. There's more you could put into this, and likewise for whatever you choose to teach the group. So if you were going to teach the group how to clean a floor, then your target learners might be people wanting to join the workforce as cleaners. And that would be fine. That would be your target learners. You could talk a little bit more. These people are generally people that are either just entering the workforce from school, or maybe overseas students wanting to do work to supplement their life while studying locally, or whatever the case may be. So just think about who you're teaching and what you're teaching them, and you'll get your answer. But obviously for the two driving subjects, it's going to be something similar to this, but no, you put it in your own words. Special needs or LLN requirements. Here, have a look at this. This is talking about English. So if you think, that the students you're teaching would not be English first language, then you might just say, hey, I will look at modifying my teaching materials or my training materials to suit people with limited English. You might be multilingual, so you might say, in teaching people that can speak Arabic, I will teach in Arabic, or you might, whatever the case may be, whatever language you may be able to speak, or multiple languages you can speak. You might say, even up there in the target group, you might say, it's learner drivers mainly from country ABC, special needs or LLM requirements. I will teach these students in a combination of simplified English and ABC language. Likewise, any health concerns, it says, will be discussed with the client. You find out your own way to put that. That'll be fine. Leave this general LLM policy in place. That's fine. Learning resources. So on this page, it's sort of asking, well, what are you going to use to teach someone whatever you're hoping to teach them? So obviously, if in this particular situation, we're saying that the resources listed below need to be provided to the participants free of charge, that's fine. So what we're saying here is that we're going to use a video, and you put down what that video is, its web address. We're also saying that there's an information sheet that Cameron's Driving School has. If you create your own information sheet, you've listed here, and you're going to attach it to this assessment. Physical resources, well, that's what do you need in order to do this job? So obviously you need a car, because this one is on about lane changing. You're going to need one dual control training vehicle. You're going to need suitable roads where students can adequately practice lane changing. So it needs to be a multi-lane road. Obviously, it's no good taking clients down side streets trying to teach them head checking. You may use it for parts of it, explaining stuff, but when it comes to getting them practicing and showing you that they know how to do a lane change using a head check, obviously you need to find a suitable multi-lane road to do that. So that's a part of your physical resources required to teach this subject. We're saying here that, you might need an iPad or tablet to view these presentations in vehicle. Could be a laptop computer, we don't really care. And then we're saying here that you might need safety vests for trainer and student for roadside demonstration. Student resources, what do they need to bring themselves? We're saying, well, if they're under 21, they're going to need a logbook. They're going to need the learner permanent license with them, and they're going to have to be, appropriately dressed and have the appropriate footwear. The required text that you would need to teach this, we're saying that for us, we're saying it's the Vic Rose Drive Test criteria. Again, you might have this. You should have some other stuff as well. I don't want to give you all the answers, but again, this is just an example. What we're saying here is that it's Vic Roads, it's the Drive Test criteria. This is the version of it. It's published by the government, and it was published back in 2015. You might have something like the road safety rules or another website or something, and you'll actually be able to find that information. The assessment for this particular thing, and this yours can be the same. You can say it's going to be a non-formal assessment, maybe on driving lessons, and the formal assessment for this would be the Vic Rose Drive Test. For the one that you're teaching to the class, you might have no assessment attached, or you might say assessment as a part of the gaining of the qualification. You can make that up. But definitely for the driving, we're sort of saying here that it's non-formal assessment during the driving lessons. And then their big test will be actually the Vic Rose Drive Test. OH&S considerations. Again, obviously with the OH&S considerations, what do you need to, conduct a lesson safely? Well, we're saying that the vehicle needs to be dual controlled and roadworthy, has to be current, have current registration and insurance, and on it goes. And then we talk about the environment, that it needs to be suitable multi-lane roads. We need to make sure that the learner has a valid learner's or license. The unit objectives or the learning outcomes. So this is where we kind of put, earlier on we described what the session is about. Here in the learning outcome, we're sort of saying, well, this is what they need to do by the end of it. It's very similar. It's a very similar statement, but we kind of give it a, by the end of the session, this is the learning outcome. This is what we want them to do. So it says here, by the end of the lesson, the students shall be able to change lanes safely according to Vic Roads Drive Test criteria on any Victorian road in all traffic and weather conditions. If this was reverse parking, it would be like by the end of the session, the students shall be able to confidently reverse park according to Vic Roads Drive Test criteria on any Victorian road in all traffic and weather conditions. So you're just going to swap in and out the information. But again, don't write it word for word. I don't want to see my work. You're going to fail. Put it in your own words. The delivery methods will not change at all. You'll have in-vehicle face-to-face on-road for your two driving. And obviously the one in the classroom would be, face-to-face training in the classroom. Trainer facilitator, you're going to put your name in there. And the learning environment be something similar, face-to-face one-on-one. and small group training sessions in vehicle on road. And for the one that you do yourself, it'll be face-to-face training, small group in a classroom. Here it gets a little bit tricky. I'm going to go back to the original template for a moment to show you this. As we scroll down, we get to the actual part where you would fill in all the bits about how you're going to run this session. So if you've got any notes that a trainer should need to know, so you might have here, note, make sure you have a roadworthy car, just as a backup. Make sure you have checked that the student has a learner permit. Or you might say, you might have here as a note, you are not to conduct reverse parking in Jones Road. And then under here in the general trainer's notes, you might have something like check that the students have their learner permit before the driving lesson. So here are the details. And this is where we fill out how we're going to conduct this 45-minute driving session, driving lesson or 45-minute classroom session. Over here on the left, it says session 1, trainer-led delivery 1 hour. Change that to 45 minutes. And what you can see here, we're pretending that this class, it would start at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. And this is generic. So we're saying here this would start at 6 o'clock. And from 6 o'clock to 6:05, we would have the housekeeping. If you go back to the assessment, remember it talked about the, listing the housekeeping requirements. We've kind of done it for you here. Read through these and remove the ones that don't apply to you. So if there was something here about, inform participants on rest and meal breaks, you'd get rid of this one because in a 45-minute driving lesson, you're not going to have a meal break. So you'd get rid of it. Anything else here that's important, you'd keep. And we're saying here that from 6 o'clock to 6:05, we would run through this. We're now saying for the next 25 minutes, from 6:05 to 6:30, we're going to teach the topic. Now, remember, by this stage, you should understand what DEDICT is. So we've allowed this to be here where you can fill in the gaps. So it'll be, and I'll show you this in the filled out version, but like it'd be here, like demonstrate how to do a reverse park, explain, E for explain, which means explain the purpose of reverse parking, how you have to do it on your drive test and whatever the case may be. The second D is for demonstrate slowly. This is where you will step out the task. This is where you will say, you will write down how you would teach the student. Like it's like looking out over your left shoulder, put your left indicator on, turn the wheel left, reverse back, turn the wheel right. You are going to think about what you're teaching and you're going to step it out in a step-by-step process because you're demonstrating it slowly to your client. They're going to be sitting there watching you do the reverse parking and explaining it whilst you do it. So here you're writing all the words you would be saying while you demonstrate the task, whether it's changing lanes, reverse parking, 3-point turn, stopping at a stop sign. In this second D, which stands for demonstrate slowly, it is where you write down all the things you would be saying as you show them how to do it nice and slowly. I is for imitate, and this is where you talk about how you would get the student to practice doing it before they get to do it. That way you can make sure they're learning, you can ask the right questions. The C moves on to coaching, and that's where they're in the driver's seat and they are being coached by you to perform the task. And because you've demonstrated it to them, you've explained it to them, you've demonstrated it again to them slowly, breaking up the task and highlighting everything, and then getting them to practice it in a static environment. When it comes to the coaching, that's where you're able to say, okay, Cameron, when it's safe, I'm going to get you to change lanes. What's the first thing we need to do? Oh, I need to check my center right mirror. Fantastic, Cameron. And what do you need to do after that? Oh, I have to put on my right signal. And how long would you need to signal for? Oh, at least 3 seconds. Yeah, that's right, Cameron. You need to signal for at least 3 seconds. So that's the coaching part. And that's where you'll talk about how you would use effective questioning, getting the student to practice the task, whatever you're getting them to do, multiple times until they start to do it by themselves. And then test is the whole idea of either the formal test, the formal assessment, or you might just say after 10 minutes of doing the coaching, say, hey, Cameron, when it's safe, I'll get you to change lanes, thanks. And you'll say nothing. And you'll see if the client says, you know, center left mirror, left signal up, doing a left head check. There's no one in my blind spot. I'm safely changing lanes, checking my left mirror, making sure no one's coming up behind me. I'm now finished my lane change and turning off my signal. So that's what testing would be. But you would just write there, and you'll see it in the example to test the client to ensure that they've learned. Because that's the whole idea of it with Dedict. You demonstrate the task at normal speed, giving them an overview. You explain the reason, what it is, the reason we do it, and why it's so important to them. And you get them to tell you why it's important for them to learn it. That's important in the explain. That's all connected learning. You then re-demonstrate the task really slowly, breaking down each step, explaining it to them step by step. You get them to imitate you if you can. Some things you can't imitate, but most things you can. And then you coach them through it, which is you asking the open questions, providing the environment for them to practice it, not you telling them old instructor style how to do it. And then testing is just watching it. And you can see here that we've got like 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you know, coming up with that time scale. We then say from here, like from 6:30 to 6:40, you've got a conclusion. You can kind of leave this in. Personal self-paced study, that would reflect what you wrote back up the top, and you'll write something like, you know, students that are practice lane changing for 8 hours, ensuring they do it correctly and are pretty, really good at it, and whatever the case may be. Student assessment, you can say, yeah, Vic Roads drive test at a completion of training. So if we go over to the other example, and I'll quickly run you through that. So if we have a look here, what have we got? There's no presentation for it. That's fine. Note, check with client that they are ready to learn how to change lanes. General trainer notes, consider appropriate local roads. So there's the kind of the tips we've got there. Housekeeping, we've definitely removed 1 or 2 steps there, I think. No, we haven't. We've left it in there, and that was deliberate because we want you to learn how to we don't want to give you a direct something to copy with this example template. So yeah, you definitely get rid of that. But again, if you have a look here under the time guide, we've changed it to 45 minutes. And then here we've got demonstrate, explain, demonstrate slowly, imitate, coach, and test. And we've filled in the blanks. And this is what you're going to do on 2 different subjects. And none of them are going to be about changing lanes because you have this example. So it says here, demonstrate how to correctly change lanes. Make sure it's safe, legal and safe according to Vic Roads criteria for 3 minutes. We're then going to explain what is a lane change and a head check and blind spot. What is the safety reason for changing lane for changing lanes safely? What's the legal reasons for changing lanes safely? And what is the drive test reasons for changing lanes safely? And we're going to say that's going to take about 5 minutes. We're then going to demonstrate slowly. And you can see here, this is where I've broken up the task. Check mirrors, center and side, looking for any vehicles behind or approaching quickly that we may have to give way to. 2, signal the appropriate direction, at least 3 seconds. 3, head check, chin to shoulder in appropriate direction. And so on it goes. Me explaining every step on how to change lanes safely. The imitate part, as it says here, I'll ask the student to imitate each of the above steps on the side of the road in a stationary vehicle. I'll ask the student to explain each step as they imitate so I can check that they understand it. So what I'm saying there is that after I've, gone through this, showing them step by step how to do it, I'm going to get them to pretend to do it. And as they pretend doing it, I'm going to, who can show you it and tell you why they're doing it. Before you even start to teach them, you have a really good body of information inside that student. And that helps them so much. So this is what this subject is all about. Formally writing down how you're going to train your students. After you've got them to imitate, coaching, and coaching really is the driving lesson, so to speak, the bit where they're driving and you're helping them to reinforce what they've practiced. But because you've done these steps so well, this bit becomes really quick and easy. So as it says here, coach, using effective questions, I'll ask the student to change lanes safely, giving assistance when required and reminding students of prior learning. I'll ask the students to commentate their way through many lane changes until they can do it safely by themselves. And I'm saying that we're going to do that for 10 minutes. And then under test, I'll ask the student to do the lane change without my help, 5 minutes. This information stays the same. Underneath, personal self-paced study, Students to continually practice lane changing using head checks every time they drive to correct their habits. And there you go. I've got 8. So as you can see, guys, what you will be doing is 3 of these templates. 2 for driving. In here, you'll break down the driving task. And for the one on the other thing you're going to teach, it'll be on whatever it is. So demonstrate how to mop floors correctly, explain the importance of mopping floors, why we mop floors, the health reasons for mopping floors, demonstrate slowly. 1, choose a correct bucket. 2, add detergent. 3, add water. 4, choose your mop, and on it goes. So, and then it would go through. So 3 of these you need to do. 3, 2 on driving, 1 on whatever other topic you like. Fantastic. Let's go back to the assessment. So, conducting your training sessions. So now that we've written out those templates, you can use those templates on your training sessions in vehicle to help you conduct it. This is just helpful information. It's saying that, using interpersonal skills, make sure you've planned and all you're going to cover all your subjects. If you've written those templates correctly, you're going to do that perfectly, nothing to worry about. There's nothing like being well organized, well planned, and then every chance of you doing everything correctly will fall into place because you've got the templates there. And that's why we supply you the other DIC templates in the TLIM part of the portal, because you can happily fill those less formal templates out and they will help you do your job. All these steps, I think, are pretty straightforward. They're helpful hints. They're reminding you to structure, pace and enhance the learning, use good coaching techniques, but you've written all that down in your templates. So guys, as it says here, it's just reminding you that for your group, you're meant to be filming yourself. Like I said, if you're not filming, you're doing it in the class with us, you have nothing to worry about. Part B. Between each training session, you either review your own personal delivery style and performance in providing instruction and demonstration, then act on your findings for your next session. So really what we're saying here is that you will have your customer feedback forms. You'll give that to your trainer. They will fill that out for you. You'll take those feedback forms and any bit of self-reflection where you think about, how did I go training that session? Was I good? Did I lose the plot somewhere? Did I forget something? So you reflect on that, and then you're going to go out and do your training again and hopefully get better at it. But once you've kind of done all that, you'll write a little bit of a report about it, okay? And that's a part of your evidence for this subject. So it says here you are to provide evidence of this improvement by providing a written self-analysis of your performance for each session and detailing the strategies you'll implement to improve your delivery style and performance. Your first evaluation will need to be submitted prior to your second session, together with your delivery plan and any learning materials and handout materials you may have used during the first training session. So, it says here, for this assessment task, and the whole idea of that, sorry guys, I shouldn't pass on from that. So what we're saying is a part of this, you're going to write a small report with your feedback sheet from your trainer. Generally speaking, when you give us that email, so to speak, or that form for us to fill out, we'll say something. Say, for instance, you taught us on reverse parking. We may, just to help you understand how to reflect and make improvement, we might say, for instance, pretend and write on your feedback sheet, even though Fred was a great trainer, the fact that he got me to practice reverse parking on the side of the freeway, I found a little bit scary. So then in your reflection report, you'll say, hey, Cameron, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed the training. Looking at the student feedback, I have learned and will no longer teach people reverse parking on the side of the freeway. From now on, I will remember to teach people in quiet side streets. It's pretty straightforward stuff. We won't make it too hard. So your first evaluation will need to be submitted, like I said, prior to your second session with any of your other materials. So this is just a good little reminder here. In all of our assessments, you'll find evidence submissions. It's a good reminder, kind of tells you what you need to be handing in. So for this assessment task, you're required to hand in your 3 delivery plans, talked about that plenty. An email containing the details of the training session. So when you've worked out the 3 things you're going to teach, you're going to email your theory support trainer and say, you know, hi Cameron, or hi Fred, or hi Matt. In this coming up, I'm going to be teaching next week reverse parking, lane changing, and how to clean floors. 2 written self-analysis reports, which is this part B, and the 2 video recordings, which you most likely won't need to worry about. If you were to video record yourself, you do it, but obviously you don't have to worry about this because the in-vehicle training will be done in vehicle with your trainer, and the classroom one, if your trainer's there and you're doing it in our classroom, you don't have to worry about video recording yourself. Alrighty, here's a part of the checklist that we use for you, so you do not have to worry about this checklist at all. Don't tick any boxes. That's for us to do. And we'll apply this across your 3 training sessions. It's good though to go through, if you want to read through this material, to kind of remind you of what we're looking for. And you'll sign off on that section. Remember to sign off in this section. And then we have assessment task 2, the written project, your question and answers. So as it says here, your assessor will decide whether you will complete the theory assessment in an oral or written format. Given that you're most likely a blended delivery student, you will write these answers in. It's an open book assessment. You won't be doing it within a time frame. Looks like there's 11 questions. You must correctly answer all 11 questions. Remember, in the vocational education and training sector, we don't hand out A's, B's, and C's. So remember, in the vocational education and training sector, we don't hand out A's, B's, and C's. It's only either 100% correct or it's not correct. So remember that, as it says, in order to achieve a satisfactory outcome for the theory assessment, you'll need to complete all questions correctly, demonstrate sufficient knowledge of the subject, use reasonable methods or considerations in coming to your answers, and correctly explain the principles when questioned by your assessor in the instance with your original answer is unclear. So if you write something that's a bit dodgy, if we say, hey, can you explain this to us? We expect you to be able to do it. Now, of course, if you can't, we're going to help you. Or, as we always say, if you're working through some of this stuff and you get stuck, always feel welcome and free to call us, email us, text us for assistance. That's what we're here for. Make sure you put your name and all that sort of stuff down. We'll fill out the rest, but pop in your name for the very least. It says here, describe 4 training techniques and when you would use them. Again, the great thing about the DEDICT method kind of highlights within itself around about 6 different methods on how to teach. So think about DEDICT. You can explain session parts there or go through your learner guide, because there's lots of different training techniques you can use. Google that. You'll find lots of answers. I'm not going to really tell you much more from that. In here, it says here, in your own words, what are the principles of adult learning? It's covered in your presentation, both verbally and in the one written down in the slides. You can Google the principles of adult learning, and it's a pretty, there's mountains of information there. Have a read of it. Think about what they're trying to say. Pop it in your own words. If you are going to reference anything straight from the source, so if you're going to not quite cut and paste, but something similar to that, then make sure that you say, as found from this website or whatever the case may be. But I would prefer for you to try to put in your own words what the principles of adult learning are. And that's important to us because even learner drivers, the way we teach them, it is better to work around the principles of adult learning when teaching them. You will get far better results. Number 3, question 3, what is your role and responsibility for OH&S while training staff? By now you will have done the OH&S subject, so I would hope that it's pretty clear that if you're training people, what your obligations would be, what you're responsible for when you go out to train someone. So think about the equipment you use. Go back to your template. I mean, in the template you've already written about down about the OH&S considerations. Transfer that information across to here. What are your learners' responsibilities for OH&S in the learning environment? Well, quite often for us, when we're teaching learners, especially in workplace training, we're talking about employees. So if you think about if you work for someone, what your OH&S responsibilities are, it's probably going to be very similar to what a learner would be. But what obviously for us, you're teaching a learner, there's going to be certain things that you want them to be responsible for. You think about it, alcohol, stuff like that, how they behave. You need to be write that down so you can prove to us that you understand what you would expect from your learner. 5, describe 5 different learning resources that you could use in your sessions. Again, go back to maybe what you've written in the templates. Think about the resources, the places and spaces where you can get information from that would help you teach your clients. So whether it's those, the road law books or the drive test criteria, they're the only 2 examples I'm going to give you. They're going to be resources that you may, from those resources, create materials. So if you think about it, you get the drive test criteria, you might get a section of that and turn that into a handout sheet. That's your material. And there you go. Describe 5 different learning materials you could use in your sessions. Well, think about your learning resources and what you would take from those learning resources to give to your clients or that you would use in your session for them to look at, so to speak. And there's your different materials. Have a think about it. Stuff for in-car training, stuff that you would use in your classroom training. Question 7, describe 4 different techniques to structure, pace, and enhance learning. Again, think about the DICT. That has 5 different or 6 different techniques listed in there. You could use that as a bit of a inspiration, explain the steps of the DICT, or again, pretty easy, Google or go to the learner guide or go back to your presentation if the answer's not coming to you straight away. It has plenty of information there about different techniques that you can use to make learning more fun. You think about it. You're not just going to sit there and talk to someone for an hour straight or 8 hours straight. Practicing conversations, question and answers, feedback, all those things will help. 8, what measures could you use to ensure your learners are acquiring new skills in your programs? Again, think about it. If you're teaching someone all day long, you're not just going to talk to them, are you, all day long and never check with them that they're learning or getting them to do anything that would prove that they're learning. Think about that. That's what your answer is going to be around. Question 9, outline 3 different ways you can review and reflect on your personal performance as a trainer. Again, as a part of the assessment, back in the practical training sessions, we actually get you to do it, don't we? We actually get you to create in customer service. Most likely we've got you to create certain forms. In the other practical assessment that we're saying, you're going to use those forms and it's going to help you make you a better trainer. Think about that. I was only explaining it 5 minutes ago. How you can make yourself better by looking back at what you've done. And yeah, you'll be able to find 3 different ways. Again, worst case scenario, go through the presentation again, go through the learner guide, Google it. Question 10, there's 2 different ways in which you could gather information about your learner characteristics and learning needs. Think about when you first joined this course. At some stage, we would have spoken to you and we would have handed you documents that you would have had to have filled out. I think that'll dawn on you on a couple of different ways that you can find out information about your clients. Again, go through the learning materials. There'll be plenty there explaining it anyway. But I think if you think about what it takes to join a course, you'll hit the nail on the head with that. And then finally, list 3 different ways in which you could notify your learners of the details regarding the implementation of the learning program and or delivery plan. Again, you got someone joining a course, think of 3 different ways that you can let them know, yep, we're going to start the course. This is how we're going to do it. This is what's going to be involved. Just think of 3 different ways you can do that. Maybe some of the papers that we've got you to sign when you join the course, you will find an answer there. And that's that assessment done. So essentially, what are you doing? You're going to fill out 3 training plans, 2 on driving, 1 on something else. You're going to conduct those 3 training sessions. You're going to review how you went and did and write a short report on it. You're also going to send me an email that says, hey, Cam, this is the 3 things I'm going to teach. And you're going to fill out these the answers to these 11 questions. You do that, you've done the job. Remember, you can contact us at any stage by phone, email, text, however you like. I have no doubt that going through the learning materials, watching this assessment walkthrough, and speaking with us for assistance, I have no doubt, and undertaking the practical training that we provide you, that you are going to do fantastic and get through this assessment. Remember to sign off your declarations and submit via the student portal. I hope this has helped. We look forward to sharing some time with you in the next assessment walkthrough. Until we get to speak, have a great day, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Hi, this is Jess from ITS. Thanks for watching. If you disliked this video, well, you know where that button is. But if you liked it, hit that like button at the bottom of your screen, get subscribed, and consider giving us a comment and a thumbs up on Facebook. Your efforts do a lot for our business.